What is up, guys? Welcome back to Overspray. So in today's video, we're gonna go ahead and start paint on the Honda Civic Project Car's hood. Now, I did put a post out there for you guys, and you guys voted that you guys wanted a step-by-step tutorial. But unfortunately, I was beginning to actually record that video. Unfortunately, things weren't kind of going the right way, and it was going to be an epic fail. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and walk you through the process and kind of use some of that footage, and then kind of take things over from there. I'll probably have a body cam and everything, and then show you guys how it's done. Alrighty, so this is the hood that I tried to seal yesterday with some spray cans. Unfortunately, it was just way too hot, and it basically just dry sprayed this whole entire hood. And I should have stopped when I saw that, but as you guys can see, or kind of see, it's really looking very stripy and patchy, and that's not what I want. And I try to get rid of those stripes by kind of painting sideways or to the side, left and right, but yeah, you could still basically see all these tiger stripes. So I'm gonna have to re-sand all of this back down, and I think what I'm gonna end up doing is just going ahead and get some waterborne base primer that I have, the H1000 by BASF, and go ahead and throw probably one, maybe two coats of waterborne primer. Alrighty, so first and foremost, I went ahead and grabbed a red Scotch-Brite scuff pad and basically scuffed this entire hood. It used to be black, obviously, because when they come new, they have basically like an e-coat, and that pretty much protects it from any corrosion. E-coats are very good for adhesion on metal parts, but they don't have very good UV protection. So you basically want to paint those panels. If you don't, and you just install the hood black like the way it comes, well, it doesn't have any UV protection, so therefore the e-coat will basically just disintegrate over time, and then you'll end up getting rust and some sort of corrosion on the hood. I went ahead and scuffed with the maroon pad. Now there is an option to use a gray pad, which I'll grab right now. So there is an option to use a gray pad. Alright, sorry about that. My battery died on my camera. So basically, when you go to paint a hood, you're gonna have several options at this point. Because this hood already comes primed, or with that e-coat, you could technically paint right over that e-coat. So if you're going to paint right over the black hood, you're gonna want to try to use a gray scuffing pad. This is equivalent to about 600 or 800 grit sandpaper. Okay, that's the equivalent of this. So if you wanted to shoot base coat right over the black, that's what you would use. You would use this gray Scotch-Brite pad, scuff it up, and then go ahead and shoot your base on top of that. But yeah, you could technically just shoot your base right on top of the black e-coat. But for me, I did have some minor little chips and stuff on this e-coat. The e-coat wasn't exactly perfect, and so I went ahead and used my maroon Scotch-Brite pad, and then I was going to attempt to shoot some sealer over it, or even some primer, just in case. So if you do have some defects and you need to fix that first before you actually shoot, I would suggest just go with the maroon and then shoot either primer or sealer, depending on you know, what you are, you know, trying to achieve. But of course, I had a little epic fail, and I got like a bunch of crazy stuff all in it. And then, like I said, I got a little bit of tiger striping because I was trying to use that guy right there. I don't know if you guys could see that far. Right there, that little can was causing stripes all over this thing, and that's not what I wanted. So we're gonna go ahead and sand this down with 400, and then go ahead and apply our waterborne base primer. All right, sorry for my messy hair. Let me get the camera to focus. All right, so a couple of you guys had some questions about the primer that I use, the waterborne BASF 1K primer, which is this guy right here. So one of you guys asked if you could put this primer on top of metal. And although the primer does state that you can put it on top of metal, like direct to metal, I would only do it for small sections that you might have broken through down to the metal. I wouldn't actually go ahead and put this primer straight to metal like the whole hood. Okay. They do have another model that is specific for that. So it's a DTM, direct to metal. This one does state that it has rust inhibitors and that you can apply it to metal, but I just don't trust it enough to recommend it directly to metal, even though it does state that you can use it on top of the metal. So anyways, let me show you the hood right now. I just blew it dry with the blower, and let me show you some things that I want to, let me show you some stuff that I need to correct, and that way you guys understand what I do in between some of these coats. All right, so taking a look at this hood, as you guys can see, it looks pretty good, right? Well, let me show you up close a couple things that you need to get rid of in order for this hood to be exactly perfect for base, okay? You guys can catch that, hopefully. See that little dimple? It's very minor. I know it's hard to see, but the camera is just not working with me right now. But there are some dimples here, and there's some dimples on the rest of the hood that need to be addressed before you go ahead and put base on this, okay? If you don't, and you just go directly on top of this primer without sanding it, without getting rid of those little dimples, for one, you're gonna have, well, you possibly could have peeling paint because you did not properly prep this primer, okay? It still needs to be sanded. For one, the primer doesn't lay down super flat, okay? It still has a little bit of grainage to it. So you need to go ahead and sand this primer super flat in order to get a flat finish, or else that texture that's on the primer will transfer to your base, and then when you go to clear it, it'll look a little bit off, okay? It'll look either a little bit more orange peely or whatever. Whatever you paint on top of this surface, like I said, if it's not prepped correctly, your base will look like the primer, okay? So if you have a dry spot and then you go and lay base on top of that, your base is gonna look like the primer, okay? If that makes sense. Also, the little dimples that you see, you need to get rid of those. If you don't and you lay down base on top of those, then your base is also gonna have that dimple. And then when you go to clear it, you're gonna see that dimple. It's gonna look like trash in your paint. So you need to get rid of those. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna sand this primer. So we're gonna let this thing sit for probably a good 20 to 30 minutes. Let it fully dry, and then we're gonna come back and start sanding this to get it ready for base coat. Alrighty guys, so I'm gonna have to stop for tonight. One, it's getting a little late in the evening and I don't want to make too much noise. It's almost roughly 9 o'clock, and not only that, I'm house sitting for someone, one of my family members, so I gotta go feed their dogs. But I wanted to show you Couple things before I let you guys go on this one, because this is going to be part one. I want to show you guys something. So I've been sanding this hood, and I'm sanding it. First I started off with the DA with 400 grit on the DA, and then I went ahead and put my interface pad and went over some of the areas that obviously you don't want to burn these edges. So the interface pad is going to help you with not burning those edges so quickly. So if you want to do a quick pass with the interface pad, that is more than fine, as long as you try not to burn through. So if you burn through, you guys might notice right there, we got to burn through. Not the end of the world. Throw some sealer on that and a couple of little other edges that might have burned through, and maybe a light sand if it came out a little grainy, or just leave it as is and paint base right on top of it. But I do want to show you something. Your primer, when you go to sand your hood, should look nice and powdery. You guys see that? Nice and powder, right? Right, you see that? Nice and powdery. If you start to notice that it comes off in clumps, you see this? See those clumps? That's primer that is not fully dry. It's dry, but not fully. And it'll end up looking like this. If you guys notice that. See those clumps? That means that the primer is not fully cured in some areas, okay? So it might be dry in certain areas, but if it's coming out in clumps like that, you gotta give your primer a little bit more time to dry, okay? Especially if it's looking like this on your sandpaper. Like that, you see that? Looks like clumps, right? So the primer is building up on the sandpaper. It should look nice and powdery. If it's not looking powdery, it's not dry enough. So that's why also I'm gonna stop for tonight, let this primer fully cure overnight, and then we're gonna go ahead and paint this tomorrow. But of course, it's gonna be a very long video, so yeah, we're gonna have to break it down into 2 sections for you guys. Anyway guys, hopefully you guys are enjoying this video. A little bit longer, a little bit more detail. I know I'm probably gonna miss something, so if I miss something, please comment down below and say, hey, you know what? Just food for thought, you missed whatever, you know, something. So, and then plus sometimes with editing, sometimes I'll miss a step just because, you know, I don't want to bore you guys to death with, you know, an hour-long video of sanding, you know. It's so sometimes, yeah, I will cut certain parts out of the video, and sometimes that's just the way it goes. So hopefully you guys enjoy, stay spraying, catch you guys on the next one.